Love Your Channel is back, and as always, we're talking to YouTubers and getting their tips and advice that you can use when you are starting or growing your own channel. Right, so the channel we're talking about today and the creator behind it are different from anything we've done before on Love Your Channel for reasons that you're going to understand instantly in just a few seconds. The channel is called Business Cringe, and it is all about mocking the ridiculous corporate culture of thinking outside the box and synergy and leveraging our core competencies and circling back on this initiative and all that crazy stuff. My guest is the creative force behind the channel. And again, as you'll see in just a moment, he has requested that we keep his identity a secret for reasons that we might get into. I don't know. We're gonna find out. I'm gonna call him Cringe because why not? So, Cringe, welcome to Love Your Channel. And let me start by asking, what can you tell us about the, let's say, unusual circumstances around your appearance today?
Well, the circumstances regarding my appearance is just that I want to stay anonymous. Just because I don't know, I'm just an introverted person, I guess. So I got this nice little mask, balaclava, whatever you want to call it. I look kind of like a freak, but I think it's fine.
Tell us about the, everybody can see the Big Corp Incorporated. Give us a
Yeah.
sneak peek into what that's all about.
Well, basically, my YouTube videos they all take place at this fictional company that I just named Big Corp Incorporated. This is the logo I've made for them. So.
Normally, I would ask you that the first question would normally be, tell us what your channel is all about, etc. Instead, I'm going to read from your website, which we'll get into later. I'm going to read from your website because
Sure.
I don't think there could be a better summary than this. It says, about the creator, that's you, and this is you talking. Yep. It says, I'm just a guy who spent years grinding in the corporate world, and I hated every single second of it. The pointless meetings, the dumb PowerPoints, the cringe shit I'd see on LinkedIn, the ridiculous job titles and buzzwords. It was all bullshit. And I knew I couldn't be the only one who thought so. Business Cringe is my revenge for what I was put through. I don't have all the answers, but I do know bullshit when I see it. Cringe is my alter ego, and he gets to say out loud all the things I wish I could. That is the perfect description of Business Cringe. Okay,
forgotten that I wrote that, but it's pretty fun.
Oh, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. All right, before we dive deeper into the channel, again, we have special circumstances today, which I'm perfectly happy to accommodate, keeping the identity a secret. By the way, are you in some deep bunker underground somewhere like Big Corp Incorporated HQ or? No, don't answer that. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. We want to keep everything secret. But what can you tell us, or what would you like to tell us, if anything, about what you're all about away from the corporate life, away from synergy and thinking outside the box, away from making your great videos? Tell us something about yourself.
I'm a person who's really interested in creating in general. I don't know. I think it's a little cringe when people say that they're creative people. Like when people say that about themselves, I think it's a little cringe. But I guess I'll have to do that here and say that I'm a creative person, I guess. Which means I like to create things. I like to watch movies, watch series, read books, and really like analyze it and think like, what can I use myself from this kind of. So I'm interested in creating videos, writing, things like that, basically. I guess that's my background, I guess.
And so that's what made you the Chief Synergy Officer and Client Success Specialist and Thought Leader and Activator of Vertical Integration at Business Cringe, yeah?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm curious, during this time when you were hating every single second of it, and I love that too.
Yeah.
Was there? I'm curious about the origins of the YouTube channel. Was there a single moment where you said, "Okay, that's it. I can't take it anymore. I have to do something," or was it like a slow burn, or how did you get to this point?
It was more of a slow burn. I'm in my mid-20s, so when I started out a few years ago, I came in with an open mind, let's say, and I don't know. I went through the whole process. Like I went through the job searching process. I spent time on LinkedIn. I've done a lot of different things. I've done customer service. I've been in meetings. I've had people try to sell me stuff. I've tried to sell my stuff to other people. I've just gone through the whole thing basically, and I just I guess I'm a little autistic, and I think while I was doing all of this, I just had like at the back of my mind, basically, I just had a little voice that just kept saying like, "This is all bullshit. Like this is all like I would be on LinkedIn and I would post and I would see what other people posted, and at first I kind of took it seriously, but I just had this little voice basically. It just told me like, like no one actually believes this, right? And that kind of became more apparent to me when I started to meet like I would meet people through work or like I would see people on LinkedIn and then I would meet them in real life or I would see their Instagrams or I would become better friends with them and I kind of realized that like everyone is just bullshit. It's just a charade. Like it's just a theater basically. Like when you actually get to know people, like they're real people. Like they watch the game, they drink too much, they're not perfect humans. Like they do stupid things. Like I realize it's all a theater. It's all bullshit basically. And yeah, that's kind of I just had this voice at the back of my mind, and I when I exited from the corporate world, I wanted to create something, and I had seen like a few places here and there. I'd seen someone on LinkedIn would post something about like how they also think it's all bullshit, and it would get so much engagement. It would get so much engagement. Or I would see people on TikTok do like skits about like applying for jobs, something, and it would go mega viral. Get like so many comments and people telling their horror stories and whatever. So I just thought that like there must be more people that believes these things that I believe. There must be like I think it's like a small minority that like a loud small minority that actually believes in it wholeheartedly. Um, and then I think everyone else is just playing along, and I think everyone else is just has these like opinions, just bottled up, just like dying to get them out there, kind of. Um, so I guess that was kind of my core hypothesis, I guess.
Maybe both of us here, maybe we can both try to become like amateur psychologists for a moment here. Let me get your opinion on this. And again, it's just an opinion. Uh, what is it about the corporate culture and specifically the language of the corporate culture that is so that makes it so stupid? Because even though it's tempting to believe otherwise, we have to acknowledge that there are plenty of smart people, plenty of reasonable people, like the people like you said, that when they're away from the office, suddenly they can be normal for 5 minutes and talk like a normal person, maybe. But when they get back to the office or when it's time to update their LinkedIn profile, suddenly they become these robots again. What the hell's going on with people? What any opinion on that?
I think the main thing is that work is pretty serious thing. Like if you lose your job, like it has pretty serious consequences for most people. Or like your how much you earn is like it's an important thing. Like it matters to people, I think. So I think it's just like there's too much downside to not fitting in, I guess. So everyone just kind of plays along. I think it has something to do with that, I would say.
And it extends beyond the language. I mentioned the language. That's especially kind of interesting to me, given what I do. But it extends to just the culture generally. You have a video, and I'll play a bit of it here. You have a video where you're making fun of Zoom calls, or like, it could be different platforms, Microsoft Teams or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah.
And it's always on a Monday, and there's always somebody who says, "How was your weekend?" And there's this 2 or 3 minute intro where people have to like get comfortable, and it's always this ridiculous chit chat about what did you do this weekend? What did you do this weekend?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: nobody cares, and in fact, everybody's privately laughing. But this is the kind of thing that just defines office life for just
Yeah.
so many people. For some people like yourself, it drives you to just say, "What the hell's going? What's wrong with you people?" But there are still plenty of people who don't see the funny or ridiculous side of it. That's kind of interesting to me. How do you not see this? But yeah, just
I don't know.
observation more than a question. But anyway, um, let's talk about the channel for a second because,
Yep.
well, first of all, is this your first channel? Because uh, this has your production values. It's very polished for a first time effort. So is this your first stab at YouTube or not?
I would say it's definitely my first YouTube channel, but I'm not new to making content in general because my background is actually in marketing. My background is in marketing, so all these things that you have to learn when you do YouTube, like that the intro has to be interesting, you have to have a hook, the thumbnail, things like retention and things like that. Those things already kind of came naturally to me because my background is in marketing, and in general, I have an interest in like storytelling and analyzing movies and analyzing series and character development and dialogue and all the. I already have an interest in that, and my background is in marketing. So I'm not new to content, but I'm new to YouTube. I would say.
What about as a hobby? Do you have maybe a hobby level interest in animation or the visual arts, or are you just naturally somehow good at this?
First of all, I don't think the visuals are very good. It's basically stop motion. So I draw all like the characters, and then I use like I don't know what it's called. I think it's called stick art. These like the props I use, like if the cars or the laptops or whatever. It's just like stick art that you just pop onto the screen, and then the characters I just draw them. So it's stop motion. So I just draw all the scenes. It's basically a bunch of image files I have in my project. So I don't really think the visual is that good. I think it's yeah.
We're going to disagree on that, Cringe. Let me tell you about your channel, okay? Because you're wrong. Because actually, no, the style is great. I mean, obviously there's a massive spectrum of styles in animation from,
Yeah.
photorealistic to stick figures. I think you're much closer to stick figures. I think you're about 2 degrees away from stick figures actually, but that doesn't matter because it's perfect for the message. It's perfect for the style of the channel. Yeah, I was going to ask you about how would you describe this animation style, but it's called stick art. Sorry, this is all new to me.
Yeah. Like to be honest, I don't really know what the official term is, or whatever. But the editing style is, I guess, stop motion. I think is what it's called. It's when you have it's what they used back in the day in like the 20s or 30s, like the first like Disney movies. I think it's like you have a bunch of like image files next to each other, and then when you play it, it looks, you'll have a character. You'll have an image of the character standing like this, and then you have another one where they have their fist up, and then if you play them next to each other, it looks like they're doing this. It looks like a motion, basically. Um, so it's stop motion, and then I guess they're called stick men or stick characters. And then I think it's called stick art. Like all the props you'll see in the video, like the cars or the laptops or the buildings, it's like an image file that I just paste on top of the drawing I made, basically.
So you're going old school, but you're dragging it into the digital age. It's kind of one foot on both sides of the
Yeah.
timeline. I love it. I love it. Well, it works great. I love it. All right. Before we continue, a quick reminder to everybody that Love Your Channel also has a podcast version. If you're more of the listening type, you can find us on, I always forget, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. Links in the description below, of course. And if you're more of the reading type, or if you just cannot get enough of Love Your Channel, we now have a Substack as well, where you will find text versions of all of our interviews, including my interview with Cringe here, along with other tips and advice for starting or growing a YouTube channel. Again, link in the description, of course. Okay, Cringe. This is the part where I tell you 3 things that I love about your channel. Okay. We're going to go through my list. We'll stop after each one to get your feedback. And I also try to include kind of a takeaway after each one, make it relevant for people, again, starting or growing a YouTube channel.
Can I just say something first?
Sure, of course.
It's actually a little interesting for me because this is the first time I ever received like feedback from someone who's not like my friends or family, basically. So it's the first time I'll receive any sort of feedback. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
All right. I don't know if I should be nervous about that or not.
No, I'm super interested in hearing it.
All right. Well, let me just spoiler alert. It's all good stuff. I'm not gonna. I didn't drag you on the channel to criticize you, right? But no, it's all good stuff. But yeah, if it's useful, why not? So okay, let me with this extra pressure added on me now. Let me give you my 3 things that I love about your channel. The first one is the style and the personality. Business Cringe is overflowing with style and personality. From the signature art style, stick art, right? To the sharp sense of humor, to the regular cast of characters, there is a very distinctive Business Cringe stamp on everything. I love this because in the world of, I would call it lowest common denominator sameness and trying to appeal to everybody, content that has a strong and clear personality always stands out. I'm not sure we have a name for the quality that I have in mind, but it's something that says, I made this, I hope you like it, but if you don't, I don't care. And Business Cringe has that. People say that if you want to make everybody happy when it's time for dessert, serve vanilla ice cream because nobody will love it, nobody will hate it, and that's the point. But you can't do that on YouTube because everybody has access to a million different flavors. You have to pick one and say, this is me. Take it or leave it. And you can't worry about trying to please everybody. Business Cringe combines attitude, excellent production values, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and very pointed humor into a body slam of the absurdities of office culture that so many of us can relate to. I think it's hard to capture the, let's call it the secret content sauce that really connects with viewers, especially something that's based in humor. But Cringe, you have done it, and you could make a fortune if you could write down the formula and sell it. So well done to you. The takeaway here for anybody who's starting or growing a channel is that content with an edge to it might not be for everybody, but remember that the same content with the edge removed probably won't connect with anyone, right? So when it comes to something that's supposed to make people laugh, especially, don't overlook the importance of the benefits of having a strong personality that kind of smacks viewers in the face and says, watch this. You want a great example of this? Check out Business Cringe. Okay, Cringe, there was no question in there for you, but just pretend that there was and run with it.
What do you want me to say?
You told me you were waiting for feedback. You got some.
No, it's good stuff. I don't like I guess
Well,
all of that's true. I agree with all of that.
sorry to interrupt you, but let me just throw a question in there about something specific. What do you think about what I said about, first of all, humor is hard. Making everybody laugh is impossible.
Yeah.
Some people just won't get it no matter what you do. But what do you think about the idea of having a strong style, a distinctive style that's kind of a take it or leave it for viewers?
I agree with that completely. I think it's very important. I think if you try to please everybody, you don't please anyone. Or like you said with the vanilla ice cream or whatever. It's that's very true. I try when I make my videos, I try to kind of, on the one hand, I try to think about like what topics is going to get the most views, or what's best for SEO or RPM and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I also try to really take into consideration like what do I just want to do myself, like what would I think would be hilarious to watch. Basically, that's kind of what that's mostly what I base my decisions on when it comes to what videos to make, or individual jokes and things like that. I try to just like what would I find absolutely hilarious, basically. And that's like that's part of it. I inherently make the videos for myself, I guess you could say. So
Well, I think in your case, obviously, people with a similar background in the world of, cubicles and, office towers, they can relate to this. So it's probably funnier for them because they've been there.
yeah,
Somebody with a totally different kind of job or background that has no direct experience, they might still get it. It might make them laugh, but they're not going to relate to it like somebody who has been,
yeah.
summoned to some kind of pointless meeting for the millionth time this week or that kind of thing. So yeah. Okay. The second thing I love about your channel is the production level or production values.
Mhm.
And here, Cringe, I have to confess something, and feel free to laugh at me or make fun of me if you want to,
Sure.
because it makes me look either naive or stupid or both. I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't cover this. Well, okay, let's keep going. I already started. My confession is this: the first time I saw your videos, before I kind of took a deeper dive into it, one of my first impressions is that, oh, this is a really cool team of people. Great voice actors, and there's obviously a really good script writer at work here, and the animators too. I mean, I wonder how many people are doing this. Well, the answer, well, actually, I'll save that. You can tell me the answer to the question of how many people are on your team when I finish in just a minute. But I later learned when I started watching more of your videos and I found your website, I later learned that you share information about the tools that you use. In particular, one called Epidemic Sound, and another called 11 Labs, and I'll let you explain those in just a second. So again, don't forget, you're going to tell us how many people are on your team and what those two tools do. And the answer to that is going to make me look like an idiot, like I mentioned a moment ago, but that's just fine. We'll talk about that in a second. The takeaway here for beginners is that today's digital tools make it possible to achieve a very impressive production level on your own. Spoiler alert, on your own or close to it. So take the time to look around and be aware of what your options are when it comes to technology and tools that will either save you time or make your work faster and more efficient, Oh, there's a business word. I shouldn't have said that. Or just, higher quality generally. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody. Obviously, there are always going to be creators who record on their phone when they're sitting in their car, and that's fine. Who cares? But if the nature of your content can benefit from these amazing digital tools that seem to appear daily now, like for free. Remember, like 2 months ago, Google says, "Oh, here's Nano Banana for free. Here you go. Check it out." I mean, it's amazing the pace of change. But if you can benefit from these tools, devote some time to trying to keep up with what's new and be on the lookout for things that might work for you. Okay, Cringe, feel free to make me look ridiculous by telling everybody how many people are on the team that produces your videos.
It's just me. I do everything basically. It's a one-man team. I write the scripts. I make the voices. I do the fine tuning. I do everything basically. I don't really have any help at all. The only help I get is that I ask my fiance for some feedback basically. But that's when the whole video is actually done, like before I post it, because I want her to watch it with like I don't want her to watch like the different stages. So I don't want her to have like um, you know, already know what the video is going to be about or anything like that. So I want her to watch it the way a random viewer would. So I just let her watch it when the whole thing is already completed, basically. So up until that, it's just me and myself, basically. I don't even use that much AI. Like I use ChatGPT a little bit for some research. Um, but all in all, it's my own words, it's my own script. Everything is just me, I guess. Um,
Tell us about Epidemic Sound and 11 Labs.
Yeah, so Epidemic Sound is just a platform for sound effects and music. So any punch sound you hear or any music, anything is just from Epidemic Sound. You just pay a small fee. I don't know how much, maybe 20, $30 a month, something like that for the subscription, and then you get to use all of their sound effects and music and whatever. And 11 Labs, well, that's the tool I use to make the voices, basically. So most voices you hear are AI voices. Some of them, a lot of them are like my own voices that I've then changed up with the help of AI, because 11 Labs has a lot of it's not just like you generate voice. Like you can create your own voices. You can clone existing voices. You can use other people's voices. Um, so that's what I use to generate the voices. That's also why I'm able to have like so many like different characters. I wouldn't be able to do it even like 5 years ago. I wouldn't have been able to, and I was especially when I was starting out. I didn't want to use my own voice. I didn't feel comfortable with it. Um, so it gave me like another layer of like there's some distance between me and the actual end product, basically, which made me a little bit more comfortable to even put it out.
Okay, let's unpack these granular data sets here. I took that from your channel too. I like that one too. Unpacking granular data sets. Let me ask a little bit further on these 11 Labs and Epidemic Sound, because I find this really interesting. Because on the one hand, it makes so many things possible, everything you just described, but it's not as if you just click a button and it does it by itself. You still need to be really good at using these tools. They're very much hands-on. I imagine there was a learning curve involved, learning everything you could do, how to do it. I mean, I'm especially impressed when it goes back to the voices, not just the variety of voices, but the intonation, the emotion. It's just right. So, can you tell us a little bit something about on these tools? Once you find the voice that you need or want the voice that fits, you have options to kind of adjust it somehow to the needs of the script and the needs of the scene, or because every voice is just right. It fits the situation, what's going on in the story. It's not just a generic recording of someone saying certain words. No, the intonation and the delivery are adapted to the needs of the script. How do you make that work?
It's just a matter of it's just a matter of grinding it out, like not settling, I guess. Like there's you can't really in 11 Labs, at least right now, you can't necessarily pick like make this one more sad or more angry or whatever. There's a lot of different voices. They all work differently. Some voices are better suited for different scenarios. Some voices are better at like screaming, but they're very bad at speaking softly. Um, there's ways around it. For instance, you can if you have a screaming voice and you want it to talk softly, you could find another soft kind of silent voice. um, generate something, generate a sentence with that voice, and uh, then use that voice recording to clone it into the other voice, basically, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So you have a loud voice, you have a silent voice, you generate it with the silent voice, and then you just apply that voice to the loud voice, basically, and you get like the loud voice but speaking the way the silent one would, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was a little complicated, but
No,
uh,
it's just
so
just an amazing example of I'm trying to avoid all the words that you would make fun of on your channel. I was going to say leveraging. I see now I'm self-conscious about everything, but
it's fine, it's fine. I won't
your channel's
judge.
a great example of your channel's a great example of leveraging the abilities of these platforms. I mean, like I said, the first impression is like this is an amazing team of voice actors and writers and animators, but to know that it's one guy who's really really good at using these super powerful tools just shows the possibilities that are out there. It's amazing. So yeah,
I
well
mean,
done again.
it's I would say in general, yeah, AI voices has a bad rep. A lot of people don't like to listen to AI voices, which I understand and I actually agree with them. I hate when I see an interesting YouTube video, I click on it and then it's just some generic shitty AI voice talking all the time. I hate that as well. I don't watch those videos. Um, but the thing is like AI voices has a bad rep, but they don't have to be bad. If you actually like put in the effort and you actually try and I write my script and then when I generate the voices, sometimes they just don't turn out well, and then I have to rewrite the script to make it work, or I have to chop up the sentences into two smaller sentences or something like that. Um, or a voice just doesn't work, and I have to change it up, or I record it myself and then I change it with AI. So there's a lot of effort that goes into making the voices actually be good, and I think not everyone notices that these are AI voices. With most people that use AI voices, you can tell, but I don't think you always can with my voices because I actually put in the effort to make them be good. Um,
Well, you mentioned
yeah,
putting in the effort. Let me just say a quick word on that, because that's exactly the thought that came to my mind. Every video you have, let's say your average video is 8 to 10 minutes, something like that.
yeah,
There is not a single edit that's out of place. There's not a single word spoken in the audio that doesn't kind of hit correctly. I mean, the pacing is just right. I mean, you get every detail down, and I'll ask you about your editing process again, and or I'll ask you about it in more detail in just a moment. But I mean, it's perfect, and again, it just gives the impression of a team being behind this. And so you mentioned being meticulous and caring about every detail. Believe me, it shows through in the quality of the work. So again,
right.
well done on that. All right. The third thing I love about your channel is your universe. Uh, Business Cringe has recurring themes and a regular cast of characters and even lore and backstories for those characters. And basically, you have the foundation for a creative universe, which opens up lots of possibilities. It also creates, I think, it creates immersion for viewers in the sense that they can binge watch in the same way they would on Netflix or wherever. Every video you make, it can stand alone by itself, but it also works as part of an ongoing series, and I like that. So Business Cringe is a universe. It's like an IP. I feel like I'm watching something that could easily blow up into the next viral sensation cringe, and of course, I hope it does. So the takeaway here is that what I'm talking about is not applicable to anyone starting any kind of channel. So there's a lesson for some creators, I would say, and the lesson is that plenty of people use YouTube in a way that we used to think about television channels. YouTube is a de facto television channel, right? And so if you're a creator and Comedy Central or Nickelodeon or whatever is not interested in picking up your idea, take it to YouTube. And if what you create takes place in its own universe, why not expand that world with more characters who have their own stories and unique contributions to the content and so on? Cringe, did you start the channel with the universe in mind, or did that come later, or what?
No, that was actually my universe was not something I necessarily had in mind when I started the channel, but it just kind of came naturally to me. I think it kind of started with me just being a little late, or it was more like you need like a boss in the video. You know, you have Cringe, you have Mickey, and then you have like the evil boss, and it was just kind of like I can redraw and create a new boss for every video, or I can just use the same one basically. Um, and then for every video, I just it just kind of fell into place. Like all the pieces are just like I need a character for this, I need a character for this, I need a character for that, and then I just create them. Um, and then I just started to put it together. Like I've always been a huge sitcom fan. Like I love sitcoms. I love Seinfeld, How I Met Your Mother, Friends, Family Guy, The Simpsons, all those shows. I love them. I grew up watching them. It's the only thing I've ever watched, basically. Um, and then like that was just always one of my dreams and one of my things I would like to do, like to create my own sitcom. Um, but it wasn't something I had in mind when I started the channel, but it just kind of happened. Like I love the idea of creating characters, of creating recurring jokes, of creating a universe, and things like that. So it just kind of happened, but I'm super happy about it, and I have big plans to keep expanding it, basically.
Excellent, because you've got the foundation for something that opens lots and lots of doors to go in lots of different directions. You even have on your website that goes with Business Cringe. Of course, I'll link it in the description. You have a section dedicated to lore. That's what it's called. The
Yeah.
backstory. The universe where these things take place. I'm reading from the website here. There's a there's a brief description of some of the main characters, and a description of Big Corp Incorporated, which we talked about earlier. The generous sponsors of your mask, by the way, Big Corp Incorporated. The main character is Cringe, of course. He's the guy we see most. Who else? Tom, the IT guy, the evil the evil executive, Larry, the incompetent middle manager, the corporate drone, Bill from the third floor, Sarah from HR. I'm so glad you included an HR character, because I think it's pretty clear by now that HR is the enemy. It's like the ground zero for everything that horrible that happens in the corporate world. And let's see, Tony the consultant, and my personal favorite. Every office has one. The guy who does nothing. Yeah, yeah. I think there are actually a lot of guys who do nothing. So yeah, well done on the universe of Business Cringe. Fantastic. Okay, let me go to some other questions about Business Cringe here. We've already talked quite a bit about different aspects of your production process. Give us an idea of the time involved from first idea to writing the script to planning things out to uploading on YouTube. How much time?
So I usually say that it takes me about 1 day to make 1 minute of content, basically. Um, so it's like a full week, roughly 1 week to make like an 8-minute video, I would say. Um, but it depends on a lot of things. You, the way I do my videos, usually it starts off with me just having an idea or like something I want to rant about. Um, Usually I have a few jokes in mind. I have a few points I want to, get across. I have a few scenes in mind, maybe a character, maybe some dialogue. I have, a few ideas in my head. I'll try to write them down. Um, and then, I spend about 1 day writing the script. I start by doing some deep research into what people online are saying about this topic. If I think there's, uh, if people will agree with my general message, I try to see, if there's any stats or facts or whatever that kind of support my claims. And then I write the script. I guess I can tell you a little about my script writing. I recently developed it. I call it like my uh, 5-step script writing process or whatever. Um, which is step one is I gather the raw materials, which what I call like I have some scenes in mind. I have some points I want to get across, things like that. I do my research. I kind of gather, the raw materials basically. Um, and then step two is I try to outline it a little bit, like how could you, yeah, an outline basically, like in what order can I present this information. Um, Step three is I try to create a storyline around it. So I have my characters. I try to think, do I need to create a new character for this, or can I use my existing characters? And I try to create a storyline that kind of goes with those points, like a storyline where those points can be communicated in a good way. Um, and then I do step four. This is something I read about how they write the Simpsons episodes, or like some of the Simpsons script writers do this, where they start off by writing a boring script, basically. So I have my raw materials, I have my storyline, I have my ideas, and then I try to pretty quickly write down a script that's not funny at all, but I just try to say like, Cringe says this, Mickey believes this. This guy enters, he kind of says something like this, and I kind of outline the video that way. Then I step away from it. I come back, and then I try to write out the actual dialogue and the actual words and the actual um, everything basically. Um, and after that, I create all the voices. The voices takes about a full day, sometimes more. Um, then I like to have a little bit of a break before I go back and fine tune, edit all the voices, and I usually have to redo stuff. Um, and at that stage, I have a rule of thumb that like if I can listen to all the audio and be like entertained or be engaged just by listening to the audio without before I do any visuals, then I know I have a good script. If I when I made some of my earlier videos, I would create all the visuals. I'd listen to it and be like, this is kind of shit, but it'll probably be good when I add the visuals. So I would add the visuals, and then I would realize this is shit. Let's restart. So my rule of thumb is if I can listen to the whole audio and be entertained before I have any visuals, then I know I have a good script at hand, basically. And after that, I do the visuals, and almost all of my visuals are just stuff I come up with in the moment, like all the props, all the scenes. Most of it is just I come up with it while I'm already doing it. Basically, some of my like my best jokes or my biggest scenes or whatever were things I just came up with in the moment, basically. And sometimes it adds like extra days of editing. Like I don't know if you've watched my video about boomer financial advice.
Sure.
Um,
I've watched
but
them
then
all.
the the fight scene at the end was literally something I did. Like the whole video was done, and then I was just like, wouldn't it be fun to have like an epic fight scene? And then I did it. It took like 3, 4 extra days of editing, but it was totally worth it. Um, so I do that, and then at the end I add the sound effects, and then sometimes I have to chop parts of the video down. Sometimes I have like a whole minute edited that I just have to remove because it's just drags it out too long or whatever. Um, so I don't know, like I'm not good at like planning things out. I like to just do it and like change things up and plan things out while I'm already doing it, kind of. So sometimes everything just comes naturally and it's quick and easy. Sometimes I try to write the script, but it just doesn't have like I write one word and I hate that one word. Um, so I guess that's sort of how I make my videos.
So moving away from the content of your channel to some things that are kind of more universal about, general things about being a YouTuber. You mentioned earlier that your background in marketing kind of informs your approach in certain ways.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering specifically on the matter of um, subtitles and thumbnails, how it informs your strategy or any methods or practices or ideas you have about how to optimize the. See, optimize, another thing I shouldn't say from
Yeah.
business speak, how to make them the best possible. Tell us about your thumbnails and titles.
Well, basically when you do digital marketing, like when you advertise on Facebook and Instagram, etc., like when you learn about that, the thing everyone really drills into you is the hook. Like your first 3 seconds are super important when people are like scrolling in short form. Your first 3 seconds need to hook them basically. Like it's everything when it comes to digital marketing. So that's already like that's in my backbone. Like I already know that intuitively, basically. So when it comes to making the videos, like the title, thumbnail, and the first 30 seconds are all like one. It's all different sides of the same coin, basically. So it's just like you wanna. I don't really know exactly what to say. I just do it, but it's like you want to be you want the title to be truthful first of all. Like you don't want it to be clickbait. You don't want people to click the video and then they be disappointed. So you want the title to be actually truthful, basically. Um, you need it to be fun, engaging. Um, someone said something. I was talking to someone who said something about like a shared secret. Like you want it to be kind of like there's a shared secret that everyone has, but no one really talks about, or no one's maybe put into words, and then you kind of pull it out of the box and be like, hey, this is a thing, um, to kind of grab people's attention. Um, I try to make it so that the title and the thumbnail complement each other, like they yeah, how should you say it? Like they're two sides of the same coin. Like you watch the title and then you maybe see the thumbnail and you get a little bit of a hint about what the video is going to be about. Um, and then in the video, I try as much as possible to just go straight to action, like straight, like the first scene is just like sets up the premise for the whole video. It's a little different. Like if this was an actual sitcom that would be on like TV, um, if you watch like Friends or something, usually there's maybe like a long dialogue at first about an unrelated joke, and then eventually they get into the main premise. But you don't really have that privilege when you do YouTube because people can just click off any minute. So that's why I try to just the first second is just like this is what this video is about, or like this is the problem they're trying to solve, um, basically.
Yeah, it's amazing how many theories there are about, do this or don't do this when it comes to thumbnails and
Yeah.
titles. And it's incredible. I think a lot of people don't realize the the time you can spend focusing on what you're going to do with this tiny piece of real estate on the screen, your thumbnail, and the 7 or 8 words maybe you have for your title, the psychology that goes into it, everything you just mentioned. It can last longer than making the video itself for lots of people. It's incredible. But yeah, I mean, your marketing background definitely informs that. And you're right about the hook, especially for content like yours. You need to get people watching and engaged straight away because the next video is just a swipe or a click away. Um, Another question I ask everybody here: tell us something about, this is big picture stuff here. The rewards you get from YouTube. I mean, independent, separate from any financial considerations. Um, your content requires some quite intensive work. You just
Yeah.
described the process a moment ago. A lot of work involved, but you keep doing it. It seems like you have every plan to continue going forward. What keeps you coming back to YouTube as a creator?
I mean, I fundamentally do these YouTube videos because I think it's fun. Like that's my basic motivation. Like I make some money from it. I'm hoping to make even more money, but fundamentally, like the actual videos in themselves, like I think it's fun. I think it's fun to create them. I like that I didn't really intend to, but with my whole universe kind of thing, I've essentially created a platform for myself where I can just express myself in different ways and I can create different scenarios and different types of videos and different jokes and different I can go in a lot of different directions and I've sort of created that for myself. I didn't really think that far when I started out, but I guess that's what I've done. Um, so it's just like I do it because I love it. I think it's so much fun. Like if some goddamn like network reaches out and says, "Hey, do you want to create a sitcom for us?" And sure, maybe I'll do that instead. But like until then, I'll just do these YouTube videos. Like I'm having fun with it. Um, that's fundamentally why I do it.
Cringe, you and I both hope that network reaches out because I will have the earliest recorded interview with the creator of Business Cringe. Make me look good too. Uh, I'm going to combine two big questions into one here, and you can go in any direction you want. Let's talk about advice that you can
Yep.
give to people just starting out or trying to grow a channel, and if it's relevant to you, any kind of regrets on your side, things that you might do differently if you had a chance to start over.
I'll start with the regrets. I don't want to sound like I'm too pretentious, whatever. But I don't really have any big regrets in that way. I have not really like I've I don't want to sound too like stuck up or whatever, but like I've done pretty okay for myself in my first year, so I'm not. I don't have any like big regrets. It's more I don't know. I'll try to think of something, but my advice would basically be if you go if you go back to my earliest TikToks, I started out by doing just a few YouTube shorts and a few TikToks. Um, when I first started out, I didn't even, to be honest with you, I didn't even plan to focus this much on like corporate culture. I had a lot of things in mind. I was mainly planning to focus on like grifters and like gurus trying to sell you courses and things like that. Maybe do a little bit of corporate culture, maybe do a little bit of LinkedIn, maybe do a little bit of the financial system, whatever. But my main focus was going to be like grifters, gurus, and maybe like how companies screw you over, but more from like the consumer side, more like reveal the secrets of marketing, kind of. That was my initial plan. But I decided to, before I went all in with making long form videos, I decided to just test out my hypothesis because I had an idea that like there's a lot of people that believe what I believe that would resonate with this. I also just had an idea that this style of content with like the stick characters that are just talking to each other, I had an idea that these things could work. I'm not sure. Um, they could. So I decided to just test out my hypothesis by doing a few YouTube shorts, a few TikToks, just testing it out, and it did all right. Like my first TikToks got like 1,000 views. My third or fourth got like 3,000 views. So I noticed that okay, I think there's something there. But surprisingly to me, then my videos about like grifters and gurus didn't do well, but for some reason, as soon as I mentioned LinkedIn, it did really well. It got a lot of views. So that's why after like a week or two, I decided, all right, let's try to make a long form video. So I just made my first video about LinkedIn, and it did well. I got like 2,000 views when I first posted it. It has more now, but when I first posted it, it got to 2,000 views. Which really set me up. Like if that first video would have completely flopped, maybe I would have given up. But that first video did well, and it only did well because I started with like a loose idea of where I wanted to go, and then I was very flexible on like my execution, like how to get there, basically. So I guess that's what I would say if I had to give any advice, that like don't get too hung up on a certain format when you're first starting out. Like have like I did, like have an idea of like where you want to go, um, and then just try different types of formats, try different. I don't know if you're doing comedy, like try different types of jokes or different characters or different whatever. Because I think if I would not have done that initial like testing, if I would have just gone straight to doing a long form video, I probably would have made that first video about like gurus or grifters or something, which maybe would have done well. I don't know. But LinkedIn did really well, and it only did well because I had first tested it out in short form.
So if you're watching this and you are stuck in some cubicle in a soul-destroying office and you're looking for some small way to take some secret revenge on your corporate overlords, you need to check out Business Cringe. If you've ever received an email that mentioned leveraging core competencies, or you've been invited to a meeting that had nothing to do with your job and was a total waste of time, but you had to attend and pretend to be interested. And remember, cameras on, people. Check out Business Cringe. If you want a great example of how creativity, style, and the really smart use of digital tools can create a challenge that you can instantly recognize as something special, check out Business Cringe. All links in the description below, of course. Cringe, thanks so much for joining us here on Love Your Channel.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best, and I will definitely be watching you going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for this time. Don't forget to check out our podcast. All links in the description, of course, Substack as well. And we'll see you next time on Love Your Channel.